Two people were arrested in Enfield, Connecticut last night in two separate incidents. Just before 6 p.m., the Enfield Police Department was called to a domestic violence incident at a house on Poplar Street. Two K-9 teams began searching nearby neighborhoods after the victims told them that suspect had fled the area on foot with his dog. The K-9 teams found the suspect's dog in the wooded area west of Gordon Avenue. Officers then heard the suspect moving toward the eastern bank of the Connecticut River, where current swept him southward. The Enfield Fire Department was called in to assist using a boat to eventually rescue the suspect, who continuously refused to leave the water. He was taken into custody and transported to the hospital for evaluation. He's now being charged with assault, breach of peace, and interfering with police. He's being held on a $50,000 bail. Now, while officers were in the process of arresting that suspect, two women arrived at the scene saying they heard about the incident on police scanners and were questioning what was going on. That's when officers spotted several drugs in their car. The two women, who were identified as 56-year-old Eileen McDonald and 42-year-old Christina Cooley, were arrested. They're both being charged with possession and intent to sell. They're being held on $100,000 bail each.